So I wanted to show you how to use Recite as a tool for correcting errors in your references and citations. I find that it's almost impossible for students to have correct or completely correct references and citations without using a tool like this. Recite is relatively inexpensive and it does the best job that I've seen of checking papers for errors. So if you go to reciteworks.com, and you make an account and you hit upload and upload your document and then you hit check, it will give you two types of errors. It'll give you reference errors and citation errors. What I recommend is when you look at these, I usually check off here show only issues because I don't think it's necessary to look at some of the other things that it shows. So this is identifying a few different types. I purposely made a few errors in the document to show you some examples of errors that this will identify. One of them is that it's not found in the document. So meaning this is in your reference list, but it is not in your citations. And I'll talk a little bit about this example in a second. These two are alphabetically out of order. So you see here it flags alphabetical order issues. It says there are two of them. And you can see these arrows next to the what the identity of this reference is. And the arrow is saying that this needs to be moved down one, this needs to be moved up one. And then here's another example of one that's not found in the document. So if I go back to the document, what's interesting, well, actually, let's look at the citations first. So there are a few different examples in citations of errors. I want to point out this one first. Carter, 2019, is not found in this. It's missing. It says year match only because it's finding another reference that is in 2019, but Carter 2019 is not found. And you might say, okay, Carter sounds familiar here. If we go back to our reference list, you'll see there's this reference that says Carter. I purposely made a reference here with kind of a non-English character for the A there so that you can see that it will flag if there's a discrepancy between any of those kinds of characters and any of those kinds of names with diacriticals or other marks, then you will need to make sure that they match throughout the document. So what I usually do at this point is I go into the document itself and I try to correct these things and then re-upload and take a look. So here is the document. We can take a look. This Carter is not found. So if I go to my references section, I can identify this one. I see that says that mark on it. And then I search my document for Carter and I see that there is actually an error because that does not match. And I paste in the corrected version there. And I look if there's any more Carters. There's a couple of them. So I want to make sure they all match. And once they're all corrected, then if we rerun the test, okay, so there are no matches for plain Carter, and all of them actually match this now. There are 5 matches for this version of the name. If I look at the next error, there's Jones and Johnson are out of order, so I can take Johnson and paste it, and now it appears over Jones. That's good. And then the last one is this Tyler Morgan. That looks like it might be a misspelling, so let's see. Probably there's nobody named Tyler except for this one. But if I search Morgan here, it's Taylor and Morgan. And if I would check to make sure to see which one is correct, but I know I just happen to know because of my own but I set this up that this should just be corrected to Taylor and Morgan. So now these should match and that's good. And I will save my document. And then if I re-upload it into the system, I will be able to get that corrected. But let me take a look at these other errors first. So the next error is multiple citations should be in the correct alphabetical order. So see this as Smith and Brown and then Jones. That needs to be switched. The order needs to be switched. So Smith and Brown. So Jones should come before Smith and Brown. And it doesn't matter. It's a little bit tricky. I believe in previous versions of APA, it went by year order, but in this case, it always goes alphabetical. So even if Jones is a newer reference and Smith and Brown is older. They're still in the order by alphabetical by the alphabetization of the references. Okay, so fixing this one again. And okay, so here's another example of a wrong one. Smith and Brown, Adams and White. So Adams is going to come first. Okay, and same thing here. And so after we correct all um, these look all good now. So I save this one. And I take a peek here. What else do we have out of order? So we fixed the Tyler issue there. We fixed the Carter issue. We fixed Smith and Brown. Um, we fixed all these. So these all look like, I think maybe we fixed everything. I'm gonna put in some other examples of things that will flag it, just so you can see something. In 2010, something happened. Okay, so I'm gonna save this and I will open the new document in Recite. I just want to pull that up. So I restart Recite, I upload the document, and that is here. And then I hit check again, and hopefully most or all of our errors should be corrected. We still are getting something, so still getting actually Carter error. So hold on a second. And I would remove, I don't know if I mentioned, but I would remove in the in-text citations, remove show possible citations, because that was the error that I just added when I said in 2010 something happened. It flags that as a possible citation because it sees the error, the year there, and it makes the error of thinking, well, this could be a reference to something, but instead you're just talking about a year. So if you take off show possible citations, it won't identify those elements. But I just wanted to show you that as an example. Sometimes it will flag things. There are occasionally things that will flag that are not true errors. So you may not get this all the way down to zero. That's okay. That doesn't mean that you're in trouble or that it's wrong. It just means that there's something that is flagging in the system. Okay, so Carter. Oh, there's a year mismatch on Carter also. So I didn't fix that. So this says Carter 2014, and that says Carter 2019. So let me actually take a look at that for a second. So I would check carefully to see which one was right. So let's say 2014 is right for Carter. I would go here and I would have to correct these to 2014. And these are common types of errors that occur when you're dealing with references and citations. And okay, so those are good. And then we have this an error in the alphabetization again here for Taylor and Adams. So I need to go in and fix that because I had not fixed that before. So let's check all those. That one's correct. This one is incorrect. And again, you'll notice that Taylor and Morgan is from 2016, so that's earlier, but it still goes later in this list because Adams is alphabetically first. So like I said, in previous APA, I believe it was ordered by year rather than by alphabetical order, and now they have changed that. Okay, so I think this is all corrected. Okay, so I think that's all corrected. And then Jones and Johnson. There it was. So we have to put, okay. And then this one, Davis and Carter. Okay, those look good. And then there's one with Jones and Carter that's a mistake. Okay, I think I may have corrected all these, so let me run this quick again. And you keep doing this. You keep going through iterations of it, and you re-upload the new document, and you see if the errors are corrected. Because you can't, typically if you make all the corrections all at once, and then you just hope that they're correct, there will still be errors. All right, so now we have 0 errors in the reference list. You'll notice here. It'll show you if you want to look at all the references, you can do that. It'll tell you how many times they're found in the document, how many times they are cited in the document, but there are no errors. And then you can look at the in-text citations. And again, this is a possible citation flagging here. It's just a sentence that says in 2010 something happened. That's not a real error. And if we uncheck the show possible citations, that won't show up. So that's all good. I want to show you one more kind of example that's kind of a strange APA 7, I guess, somewhat anomalous type of thing. So if we have, let's say we have Johnson here. Let's say I added another reference that's Johnson. Instead of TL, it's a different Johnson. Let's say it's UL, just a different person. And I'll change the year. It doesn't matter if the year is different or the same, but we'll just call the year 2016. Okay, and so I run this one. And if I run Recite here, it's going to flag something that is kind of an unusual case, but does come up pretty fairly frequently in dissertations because you have so many references and often there are just common names. And what that is if you look at the in-text citations here, and I again remove show possible citations, we get an ambiguity warning on Johnson because you remember we had 2 different Johnsons in our document. We have TL Johnson and UL Johnson, 2016 and 2021. Now, it doesn't matter that the year is different because you'd think that was enough. You could just say Johnson 2021 or Johnson 2016, and that's enough really to distinguish between these two, but not according to APA 7. APA 7 requires you to actually put explicitly add the initials to citations where there is possible ambiguity in the authorship. So because there are 2 authors named Johnson, everywhere that we have Johnson, we have to put those initials. So if I search the document for Johnson and we have Johnson 2021, we know that is going to be T space L period space TL Johnson. So you will list it that way. Let's say I go to the next Johnson. Let me here. These are formatted a little funny, but it's okay. Let's say this were Johnson 2016. We know that's going to be UL Johnson. So I have to put U period space L period space Johnson. And we do that anytime there is ambiguity about only the first author on multiple references. So it's going to ask you to correct that on every instance of that. And if you look at the APA guide, it gives you a link here to tell you where you can go in the APA style that explains this a little more. But if you make that correction throughout, these will go away in flags. And those are kind of the main circumstances that come up frequently. There are always kind of other strange things that could happen in this. And again, I don't expect that you necessarily get this down to 0, but I do expect that they're all correct. And a lot of times I get students saying, well, it has a number here, but I fixed everything that really is an error. But there really are, most of them are really still errors. So don't really look carefully to make sure that anything listed here isn't an error. Most likely it is. Generally, I would say if you uncheck this show possible citations, everything else needs to be fixed almost all the time. If you know it's a special circumstance, that could be possible. Same thing here in the references. If you hit show only issues, and this is an example where I added this UL Johnson, but it wasn't cited in the document previously, so that came up here. But if you check show only issues, almost everything that comes up here is going to need to be fixed. It's almost certainly the case. I want to add one thing to say that this checks the references and citations, but it does not completely ensure that your formatting in the references is done correctly. It doesn't really check for italics and the capitalization that being proper. And these should all actually have DOI URLs at the end of them. So every one of these should end with a DOI URL. It doesn't check for that kind of thing. So you want to make sure that you go through your APA guide and the materials that I send you to guarantee that the references are actually all correct. Um, in addition to using Recite to check that the links between the references and the citations are correct. So, I strongly, strongly recommend this tool because I think it will save you a lot of time and a lot of headaches in terms of resolving these things quickly.